call to order. Dr. Deegan will lead us in the pledge.
For our Pledge of Allegiance today, we have two helpers. We have Jocelyn and Malia. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Blockfelder?
Here.
Ms. Nyworth? Here. Ms. Edwards?
Here.
Dr. Bridges?
Here.
Mrs. Jesser?
Here.
Colonel King?
Here. We have any special guests or special recognitions?
We have some very special guests today, and for that, I'm going to ask Mr. Dees to introduce them.
Thank you, Dr. Deegan. Thank you, Board. We are honored to have Greg Ford here tonight. He is the MacArthur High School cross-country coach, and he has brought some of his athletes with him. And I'll let him introduce them, and they may have a brief statement for you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Again, my name is Coach Greg Ford. Ladies, good to see you again. I'm the cross-country coach at MacArthur High School. Started 3 years ago. Mr. Harrington left for greener pastures down in Fort Worth, so the vacancy came open, and I'd started then. So we started the program. Brought two of my runners. Thought we were going to have some more, but we literally just finished practice. So one young lady's mother would not let her come hot and sweaty. So I told them, let's wear our sweat with pride and show them that we work. But I brought two of my runners. Senior Daniel Nickel, he was state runner-up last year in Class 5A. State champion his sophomore year in the mile, runner-up in the mile this year, and on program 2 compete at a very high level. So I'll let Daniel talk for a minute. And my other one is Maddie McConnell. She's the tallest member on our team with the longest legs, so she runs the fastest. But give you a perspective on two, and you're a sophomore this year, right? Sophomore. So now I just grabbed them and said, come here. So they're not, when they saw a big crowd, they said, eee. Oh, I'm sorry. Supposed to be here? Okay, sorry. No shoes on the deal. So with no further ado, I'll let them talk for a second. And again, thanks for having us.
Hi, everybody. Daniel Nickel Jr. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say, but I'll just talk to you about cross country. Everybody usually asks me why I run cross country. I know it's a little funny, just like to run, but most important, I think something that I learned to love, be compassionate about. It keeps me out of trouble mostly. I'm either tired or running, so working out. And last year I got runner-up at cross country. Was hoping to win. This year, hopefully, I do win. Odds are looking pretty good, and it's been a pretty good season so far. Good summer training, and everything's been great. So, and this is one of my teammates, Justin Levick, and another one of my teammates, Brandy. They're both really good kids too. They stay out of trouble, and they're looking pretty good this season too. So it's nice to talk in front of all y'all.
Daniel, have you talked to any D1 schools?
Yes, on Instagram I've talked to Kevin Odrasic, the OU head distance coach. Not any offers yet, just kind of communicating back and forth. And then I've talked to Dave Smith, head distance coach at OSU, and a couple other D1 schools, not too popular. Hopefully I can talk to some more after this cross-country season. I get better times, better results, so we'll see where that goes. Thank you.
Annie, you're up. Real quick. I don't know how much time we have.
Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Madeline McConnell. I'm not prepared at all. Okay, so like you said, people ask me, why do you run so much, or why do you like to run like when it's 101 degrees? You're crazy. Okay, so recently, this school year, I had to make a 6-word memoir. My thing was I chose running rather than suicide. So I like to run because it keeps me away from the negative thoughts of wanting to commit suicide and self-harm. Back in 8th grade, I had no clue about cross-country, so when I ran track, it was like these thoughts weren't helping me, because track you do a short distance, and then cross-country you run 3.1. So in high school, when I found out about it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this, and after 1 year of it, I was doing much better. I'm doing a lot better. But I don't run for medals. I mean, they're nice, but they're not what I go for. I like to see nature and the thoughts just go away and positivity comes to my mind. Competitions, they're really, really fun. We get with new girls, you meet people from all over. So it's like you're not only meeting people in your school and getting social with them, but you're also going to meets and you're getting social and you're connecting with people that can, that know what you're talking about. Because like all I talk about is sports and working out, and if I talk to someone that's not a runner or anything, they just don't get it. But so cross country, this year I'm looking forward to getting new times for track especially. Right now my mile PR personal record is 7:15. I'm looking forward to getting a 6:45 or 6:30. So yeah, that's it.
Introduce yourselves and then we'll go.
I'm Justin, the one that showed up late.
Hi, I'm Brandy. I'm also the one who showed up late.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Departmental reports, we have item 5A, of course, which is our update of the business operations, the written updates. And if you don't have any questions over that, with your permission, I spoke to Mr. Jester, we have an additional update, and you have a copy of it right here, a written update from Sodexo. And with the board's permission, I'd like them to invite them up and give a little bit more information. They're in their transition period. And so with that in mind, Ms. Ellis and...
Can I have a question?
Yes.
Can we ask him a question?
Of course.
That's perfect, thanks.
Ms. Ellis, wait, okay. Ms. Ochoa.
Ms. Ochoa will be doing most of the talking, so I'm going to stand with her as moral support.
Thank you. Showed her to the light of the podium. We truly appreciate it. Thank you very much for the time. We wanted to update you. We're about halfway through our phase 1, as you'll see, phase 1 will be over September 30th for us. So we're looking at transition in phases. So I just wanted to give you a brief update as to where we are. As we continue to form our on-site leadership team, we have been having meetings with grounds, maintenance, and custodial personnel, giving people a chance to ask questions, make sure we answer those questions, and most importantly, listening, learning, and then sharing information as they ask questions to make sure everybody's comfortable and the transition is smooth. And that leads to some of the expectations moving forward. So we had an expectations meeting with Dr. Deegan and Mrs. Ellis, where we laid out the expectations of what we will achieve and the milestones we achieve in the next 30, 60, and 90 days. We're going to be following up that meeting with a larger meeting to establish the full year expectations, but we wanted to make sure that we have milestones established and targets for the next 30, 60, and 90 days of our performance and what we'll be delivering. We've had a swarm of people on site that have been very focused in capturing all of the data that we've spoken to you about prior. So they're looking at every room and opening every door, looking at every piece of equipment, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, taking room measurements. And I need to stop here for a second and say that the welcome we have received and the collaboration that we've received from everyone, and it would take too long to go through the names, but from AJ helping us collaborate on making sure that the technology is getting prepped and ready, to Lynn helping us send out messages to the principals, to our teams that are out there, going and working with the principals, assistant principals, the custodians, the maintenance, the grounds personnel. The access that we have had to the buildings and the support that we have had truly makes us feel part of the team. and we truly appreciate it. I really needed to recognize that, so I just wanted to say that. The communication, we are working with the district to begin to communicate, not just with the personnel, but to start reaching out to the schools and to the supplier community, so that we're prepping our national suppliers with those conversations with the local suppliers, and that we had talked about earlier, and then developing the communication that comes both from the district and from us as we begin to transition those suppliers to working with us. And we're very excited about that as well. We're putting all of the preparation into training on the new pieces of tools and technology that we're going to be introducing. So all of that data capture of the room inventory, equipment inventory, that's getting us prepared to roll out our work order management system. And right now, the tablets that the maintenance personnel will be using in the field are being prepared with all the software that they're going to need, as well as training being set up for the end of September for those personnel to be efficient and effective in using those tools and technology. And that's where we are. You'll see in your documents, we have some of the milestones established, so you can see, and we'll be able to report on those moving forward. And that's all I have. Any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer.
My question on the grounds, what all are y'all in charge of on the grounds? What all are you looking at as you're going through that you're going to be taking care of on the grounds?
Well, we're going to be looking at everything. We'll be supporting the current structure of the district and the current responsibilities of the district with the grounds manager. We'll be looking at plans and how to best service the district, and whether it's tools or technology or new equipment.
Well, my question more is, like, I understand that, but okay, we're just going to use Tomlinson for an example.
Sure.
They have their parking and stuff is got great big huge, like, potholes. Do y'all, or is that going to fall under y'all, or is that something that would fall more under, that we would have to have done? I don't really.
Well, we'll obviously work with Mrs. Ellis as to how we present those opportunities. So yes, we will look and present opportunities for us to take care of those types of situations.
That would be like an
Yes,
extra cost.
it'd just
Of
be,
course, that's not
well,
part of the
no,
contract.
those
Asphalt?
types of things as we, yes, as we work through it together.
Yeah, if I can interject, that's
Yes.
a maintenance
Yes, it is.
coverage, so it is something that we do.
And it would be something that would be covered under the current contract.
Okay.
What about like our bus barn, our parking lot for our bus barn, that kind of needs to have something stopgapped until we can repave the whole thing? Would that be under the same
It would be
thing?
the same kind of thing.
Okay. I'm curious about that. All right, thank you.
In actuality, what we are looking at is a maintenance plan across the district rather than a crisis management plan. And that's what I keep saying to everybody. We don't have this district under control by any
Right.
means. When it talks about crisis management, we're looking at what's immediate and emergent. And that's what we've been working on for a while. We have been able to do a few things as far as maintenance management is concerned,
Right.
but not all of it.
Right.
That's what this is about.
Yeah, I was just curious if like asphalt and stuff was covered under that, or if that was something that we needed to look at bidding out and getting prices to do in a different way, so.
So anything that was covered before by maintenance, in essence, is going to be something that we would cover. That's probably the simplest way to
Probably
put
is.
it, right? I think that's probably the easiest way to communicate that. And quite frankly, everything we're doing today, everything we're doing now, we've done up to this point, is leading just to what Mrs. Ellis said. We are going to be presenting later in the fall a facilities plan. And so all of the data we're collecting, all of the listening that we're doing to the team, all of that is going to be contributed, and you'll see a more proactive facilities maintenance plan moving forward.
Well, Ms. Ellis, you might need to go to Tomlinson. There's fixing to be a really bad situation where the cars pull up to watch the football games and stuff that are there. If we get any type of more rain and stuff, you might want to look, and that may be something we need to push.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I can't let Eleanor and Miss Ellis sit down without acknowledging Don McKeag. He has been pivotal over here. He's also a fellow board member in a different district, but Don has made sure everything has worked seamlessly since July 1st. He's done an amazing job, and you'll get to hear from him later, but I wanted to acknowledge Don.
McKeag.
Make sure you wave everybody, Don, so they know who you are.
Well, he's getting a bit blocked by the podium, so I can't see him. You timed it just perfect.
No. Any more questions on item A? I'll move to item B. And under 5B, we have an information item, and for this, our Finance Department audit report with Elizabeth Brown-Hill. And as this Ms. Brown-Hill is approaching the podium, I just want to point the board to page 1, which is it's right after the agenda. On August 2nd or August 3rd board meeting, we Ms. Brown-Hill requested the need for an audit of the Finance Department. This is the result of that audit, and so I'm going to turn it over to.
Good evening, everyone. You should have a copy of the letter from the auditing company. I reached out to probably about 3 auditing firms, but because it's at the end of the fiscal year, this was the only company that had time to come in and do the audit. As you can see in the background information, I requested an audit because whenever you have a turnover in personnel, it's pertinent to the incoming director as well as the district to make sure that everything is in line. So that's the reason I requested the audit. So as you can see, the previous director, she was employed for quite a long time, and during her tenure, she created a set of complex Excel spreadsheets used in addition to our accounting software. The accounting software can be used as a standalone. You do not have to have those Excel spreadsheets tied in, because if you key in one error, there I believe are 50 Excel spreadsheets. One error feeds into the next, which will throw the entire system off. The information that's in the Alio software is correct, but what's put in the spreadsheets can sometimes be incorrect, but it can give you a true statement. So you don't know whether or not it's actually true or not without knowing how those spreadsheets are set up. So the concern that I had was that the June financial statements did not reconcile with what Alio was giving me. So the findings is at the present time, the district is using a large amount of Excel spreadsheets, reports generated from our accounting software, which is Alio, and additional to reporting items using in Crystal reports. So as you can see, we have 3 different reports that we're feeding from, and at any given time you get intentionally or unintentionally cause problems to arise, giving you false information. Their recommendation was for us to look at additional software programs and to get rid of as many Excel spreadsheets as we have. There's no need for us to have that many Excel spreadsheets, especially if you can put in one amount and it just break down the whole system. So during their visit, they were unable to get an accurate detailed listing of our outstanding checks as of June 30th. They feel that a large portion of it was a discrepancy that existed. So the general fund had an outstanding check list June 30th in the amount of $8,104,447.20. However, when they compared that to the summary of our bank statements, without a doubt, the amount of checks paid in 2017-18 was misstated. The district indicated that we had over $128 million paid in payroll for the 2017-18 fiscal year, but in actuality, we only paid $125,000. So those reports that I gave you back in, I believe it was July, there was a $3 million discrepancy, and that's where that $3 million discrepancy came in from. Their recommendation is that the district consider streamlining our financial statement procedures. The current procedures are cumbersome and leaves a lot of room for errors, and that's what we're trying to move away from. The concern with the general fund balance from May to June, it was $33,095,000 or $95,707, which was a decrease when I ran my report in June, which stated $18,280,412. which was a decrease of about 44.8%. But looking back at the previous year, the 2016-17, there was a similar occurrence, which the fund balance in May was $29,984,4, and it decreased June 2017 to $16,602,168, which was a 44.6% decrease in 1 month, which is a normal occurrence due to several factors. You have more expenses. The payroll is ran for June, July, and August in June. So therefore, you're going to have more expenditures than you do throughout the rest of the year. So that's why you have that decrease. Also, the concern was due to the financial statements being off, uncertainty exists as to whether the June 30th, 2018 fund balance for the general fund and all other funds was correct. So as you can see, he created two methods, Method 1 and Method 2, which both methods that he used gives you that same ending balance that I gave you back in July of the $18,280,412, which the district had a carryover of about 15% in total revenue in 16-17, and in 17-18, we had a carryover of about 16.5%. So as you can see, the 2017-18 fiscal year was a positive year for the district. So we are in good standing, and if there's any questions regarding the letter, on the last page, he gives a similar spreadsheet of what can be used. I know the school activity gives you a report that gives you all of the expenses, as well as the purchase order report that is submitted to the board meetings. So the spreadsheet that's on that back page is similar to what I'm looking at presenting to the board. So you won't have that large packet. You'll still have the pertinent information that you need to find out the status of the district at the time, but you won't have a packet of maybe 30 pages. It'll be more streamlined, and anyone looking at it can see where we are financially. Is there any questions?
So do you have the software that you need now to do the job, you know, without these kinds of errors that occurred before you?
The Olio software that we use now can produce forms without the Excel sheets. We can look at other programs. There's Mass out there, which he did recommend we look at Mass. And then there's, I think it's an ADCP. That's another program, but it's not used for a district the size of Lawton. Mass and Olio are the two that would be.
But you're happy with Olio?
I haven't had any problems with Olio. I did use it at my previous district, and we were able to use that without all of those Excel spreadsheets. It's just a matter of how the board wants to see those reports. If they're comfortable with something similar to what's on this page, or if you're more comfortable with what you've been receiving, I can.
This is good.
Okay. It's, when you have that amount of Excel spreadsheets, not only does it take away time that can be used in other areas, it's just not.
Yeah, delete one formula and you're in trouble.
Right. And that leads us to where we are right now.
Yeah, I understand.
So I do want to let you guys know that I am working on streamlining those procedures and having current reports for you by September 20th.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Move on to item 5C. This is another information item regarding Early Childhood Every Student Succeeds Act and graduation rates. And for that, we have Dr. Jamie Polk.
Good evening. I have placed a sheet at your site, and the top of it says ESSA, Every Student Succeed Act I'd like to take just a moment and update you. ESSA was actually a federal law that went into place 2015. And so it actually replaced No Child Left Behind. And so that's where ESSA comes into play. On the right there of the sheet I've given you, you see a blue timeline starting there. Of course, the act went into place 2015, but July, August 2016 is when Oklahoma started their task force. Most importantly, I'd like to draw to your attention, on July 2nd, 2018 of this year is when our plan was approved at the federal level. So please note, we did not have a plan. We did have the 1,000-some page federal document, but we did not have an Oklahoma plan. We do now. With the Oklahoma plan, we have what's called Oklahoma Edge. There's 6 points to the EDGE, and the first one, of course, is the graduation rate, but not only for 4 years, but 5 and 6 year seniors. They will take account for graduating. The second point for the Oklahoma Edge is for our kindergartners to enter ready to read. Significantly different. We'll talk about that when we talk about the importance of pre-K. The third thing is the focus on NAEP, which is a national report card that measures 4th and 8th grade math, reading, and science. The fourth point is to increase the effective teachers by reducing emergency certified teachers. Point 5 would ensure that 100% of the students in grades 6 through 12 have an ICAP. Mark Manningly will speak a little more on that. We're working on that, but we will have to 2025 to ensure 100% of our students have a plan academically. And the sixth and final point is to reduce by 50% the need of mathematics and English language arts remediation after high school. That means our students going to college and needing those remediation classes. If you turn the sheet over, for the first time in history, the federal government has come up with a definition for high school graduation. Prior to ESSA, we measured the high school senior graduation. Now with ESSA, we measure 9th through 12th grade, meaning if a student entered in the 2013 year, they're in a cohort group for 2019. So they measure where are those students that started with you in 9th grade, where are they now when it comes time for graduation. If you look at the two charts there, the first one talks about the 4-year dropout rate for the graduating class. These two charts are how we have received our information annually off of the Office of Educational Quality and Accountability. We get a report each year. That's what those two charts are there at the top. Below the team, which is LPS employees, looking at, okay, if we were to look back to 2012 and we had to do a cohort, what do those numbers look like? That's that third chart. But what's most important, this is new. Our first report card will not come out until December. But we were aware that we were changing, so we wanted to know what it looked like, so we placed that data there. We recently had the USA report, and we are still trying to find where they got that information from. It appears that they've used Cotton County and Comanche County in order to come up with the numbers that they have published. The communications department, I am so thankful to them. They've placed calls to the actual authors of the documents, and that's where we know exactly where. So that information that came out is not Lawton LPS. It's Comanche and Cotton County for one of the reports, and then Comanche for the other 3 reports. What's most important for us to know is we do have the data, we're tracking the data, and I also have placed on here State Superintendent Joy Hoffmeister in a flyer that she had asked us to send to each parent, states that this is a new beginning. For the very first time, Oklahoma will be able to measure itself against the nation. And because we have new standards, we have new assessments, this is a reset. We know that it's going to be a dip, but yet I want the board to know we're preparing for that. And if you look again at the senior graduation rate, and it's like, well, that looks pretty good. We have 10 days before the State Department interfaces with our software, which is called the WAVE, and they just hit that machine overnight. They get their information, and then it comes out in a report. Our counselors, assistant principals, and principals sit down, and they only scrub the seniors, because that's the only data. Seniors were the only ones that were being reported. So now, with the help of the data center, we're going to come up with a protocol. How do we scrub the records for the 9th, 10th, 11th, and then the 12th grade? And we'll see a significant difference in regards of our numbers. But please note, even for myself, I did not have the people look at any other thing than what we were being measured by, and that was the accountability. Now that the game has changed, we will change how we have actually will gather the numbers. The last thing I'd like to bring attention to is the preschool enrollment numbers. For the state of Oklahoma, pre-K is not required. The first column will tell you the number of students enrolled in pre-K the prior year, and then the current year, and then you come up with, it's not a one-on-one, but a rough estimate in regards of how many of our students have attended pre-K that are now in kindergarten. Ms. Frazier will actually be able to speak more on that when she does her goal setting. But what's most important to know is we are on top of the data, and I am very thankful that the USA report came out, because it caused us to stop and actually reflect and ensure we're watching the right thing. And so with that being said, I'd ask if you have any questions.
I have one. When you talk about, refining the data for the 9th, 10th, and 11th, what do you think that you would be looking at? What would, would we be looking at students that started here, then dropped out on those levels too?
Yes,
so that
ma'am.
we wouldn't be holding them over to seniors?
Yes, ma'am. What currently happens for us, for our 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, we're in a very transient area because of the military and other things. What we would do is we would put a note in the comment box. Those students have moved to South Carolina. We could go and hit that. We would know if we sent the records or not. But with the WAVE, it's looking for a number. It's looking for a code. So when it hits, it just needs to see 3505. That tells them that students' records have been sent to another accredited high school and they're still on track. In the state of Oklahoma, because the students receive an ID number that will follow them throughout the state, so it can track that way. That helps. But the thing of it is, When it comes time for that wave, and we use that 10 days to actually look and make sure we've gone through, we in the past have not necessarily focused so much on the 9th and 11th graders. We ensured our 12th grade records were exactly the way they need to be. And that's why you see that high graduation rate for seniors only. But once you bring, and we have brought the counselors to the table and said, there's a change. They said, well, that's fine, we can do that. We just didn't know that. But it's just being informed. Yes, ma'am. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pope. She and her staff did a tremendous amount of work on that, so I appreciate it. All right, no more questions on item 5C. We're going to go to item 5D, which is the topic of discussion at OSSBA 2 weeks ago, which is an action item for proposed adoption of policy FFACD, medical marijuana, and for this we'll have Ms. Ellis see if the board has any questions.
Paper in front of me.
It is on page 8, thank you.
It's right behind the, this one? Went too far.
Page 8.
It's all over the. No.
Good afternoon again. This is policy FFACD, the acronym, medical marijuana, and for such a lengthy debate, this is a short policy. This is the recommended policy by OSSBA, and so we thought that we would bring this to you so that you would have an opportunity to look at it to determine if this would be the policy that we would like to adopt. This is what I think will be a beginning. I'm sure that there will be lots of transitions along the way. This is probably a first draft. It has an adoption date. I can see in the future many change dates, but I'd like to propose that to you. And do you have questions?
Yes. Well, first off, since we're a no smoking facility, somebody said that this is going to be capsules or something that that's edible.
Marijuana
It is non-smoking marijuana.
Non-smoking, okay.
Yes.
It says no smoking on it.
Where does it say that?
In the 4th paragraph. There will be no smoking on school premises.
Okay. I'm just not happy with it at all. I know that this is a state law, but since it's not federally mandated, how does that affect us for federal funding and stuff? Could they come back in on the federal level and say, well, we have not passed this as a federal program so that we can.
At this particular point, OSSBA says that this is going to be regarding our state because the state of Oklahoma has adopted this law. It is not a federal law, and we are not at this point impacted by that.
Right. But we need a state
But it is
law.
something
Yeah,
else that we are impacted by.
Okay, but here, maybe this is a question for Colonel King. We actually do have a school on federal property, so.
Hi, Colonel King.
Does the.
I'm glad to have you as an
Sorry, that
ally.
just came into my mind. But, I mean, how will, that's a whole, it's an elementary school, it might be slightly different, but it might not.
Those are the answers that those are the questions that we don't have answers to at this particular point,
So
and we simply don't.
Should we pass a policy then if we don't have those answers?
We need a policy to begin, and then she can bring us changes as the law develops, because we need this now.
That was my
come up.
recommendation at the beginning. This is just an adoption date to help us get started so that we can function within the law for the state of Oklahoma. There will be lots of revision dates, I'm sure, because that's going to have to be interpreted, and it's going to have to be legally interpreted. If we start with nothing, we have nothing to govern us.
So we think it's a good idea to allow children to do
That's
this
not
on-
our,
That's not our
that's
call.
not our
It's
call.
legal. We're not their mamas.
Well, we're not their physicians either.
Yeah, right. We don't know. I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Call roll, please. If there's no discussion,
We had discussion.
go ahead.
Ms. Clodfelter,
No.
Ms. Nyworth,
Yes.
Ms. Edwards,
Yes.
Dr. Bridges,
Yes.
Mr. Jester.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Flag salute will wear you out. That's hilarious. Under item 5E, we have an action item, gift and education plan, and that, I believe, starts on page 9. And here to see if you have any questions would be Ms. Kelly Trinidad.
We're just so exciting around here that the children are falling asleep.
Good evening to everyone. I'm so glad to be here to talk with you about our Gifted and Talented program. It's been a program that's been in action here in LPS for a long time, but as I was asked to kind of start taking a look at how we're performing and all of the elements of the program, I noticed that there is a little bit of a concerning trend. I had data pulled from our participation numbers for our students, and ranging all the way from the school year 13-14 to our current school year. And I can tell you that in the school year 13-14, we served through the Gifted and Talented program 1,724 students district-wide. Last year, we served 1,268 students district-wide. And that is basically 456 fewer students who are being served through the Gifted and Talented program. So that leads you to the question, well, what's going on here? I can assure you it's not because Lawton as a community is producing fewer talented and fewer gifted students. And I think that it comes down to the process of identification. So to that end, we have stepped in, and with the guidance of many of our stakeholders and the program's director, we do have a couple of updates that we have included in our gifted education plan. And I think that all of the board has a copy of this, is that correct? If you would, please move to page 12. Page 12. This is our gifted program matrix. And this is kind of our evaluative tool that we use to score a student and see if they are holding on to and displaying the potential to be a gifted and talented student. So here on this form, students are working towards the magical number of 12. Certain points are assigned for certain performance levels on various tests. It used to be, if you take a look at this, you'll notice there's one large rectangle and then another large rectangle. Prior to this year, the district always looked at this matrix as a or situation. They could either gain points here or here, but not together. We've taken a closer look at that. We've discussed it with our teachers and looked across what other districts are doing here in the state who are really performing well with their GT. And they take an and approach. So a student can earn points for not just their performance on OSTP, let's say perhaps they earn 6 points, but if they also did well on their STAR 360, they did well on their ACT, their pre-SAT or pre-ACT, those points can be earned as well. And so it allows that student to gain more ground and get up to that magic number of 12. Additionally, you'll see across the bottom here, gifted committee approval, and you'll see the words creativity, leadership, performing arts, and visual arts. That's another movement that we're wanting to make within the program, is recognizing the ability of students to not just perform academically, but also contribute to our world and their community in ways more than just earning an A or earning a great score on a test. And so we're looking at beginning to implement more procedures where we can identify and provide points and acknowledgement of those skills that students bring to the table. As far as our Gifted Advisory Committee, right now we're in the middle of receiving commitments from our prior members of last year. We're securing additional members that will best serve students in the program, and that list of our committee members will be provided to the board at the October board meeting for your review. Do you have any questions?
So, at what age do you start identifying these kids? And what happens to move-in children?
Generally speaking, a child can be identified as gifted and talented as early as the 2nd grade. There's a certain reluctance to do that beforehand because developmentally, you don't always have an indicator of development as being a true gifted and talented situation. So they, generally speaking, we like to wait until the second grade. They're most likely identified in the third and fourth grade. Now, whenever we have a student move in, let's say perhaps they're a sixth grader, whenever we receive school records from another district, oftentimes if they're already a member of the GT program in their prior district, then we automatically know this is a gifted child. We honor that identification and we continue to serve them. Let's say perhaps we have a child who's never been identified before. At that point, we rely on either teacher observation, parent request, or some other indicators that come along and say, I believe that this student is probably gifted. They're simply performing at a higher level that's unexpected for their grade level. And at that point, we can go ahead and initiate a GT assessment. There is no age limit on when we could do a GT assessment.
So they don't necessarily miss that window?
Oh, no. No, we will never, ever deny the opportunity for a child to attempt to be identified as gifted and talented.
So the committee reviews all these?
Yes, ma'am, they do.
I notice it says a proper documentation committee that can add 2 points. So
yes, it can. Yes, it can. It can add on 2 points, and that's simply giving acknowledgement to the work of the system to contribute and to establish that child as having that documentation.
So if they had an outside activity?
Absolutely, yes. And that's part of our efforts to perhaps basically widen the scope of how we serve our students and allow them to shine in the ways that are best for them.
Who would initiate the nomination, an academic nomination form, group on M? How would that process start? Who would?
That can start a myriad of different ways. We can have a parent who contacts the school and says, I believe that my child is gifted and talented, and at that point, they are the ones who are initiating the nomination. Usually speaking, it's a teacher, because they are working academically with that child day in, day out. And so that identification comes from them. It can be from administrators, it can be from various sources. Sometimes you will have a GT teacher who happens to see a kid in action and says, whoa, I think that's one of my kids.
Yeah,
and
has all that.
Yes, So
I noticed self is in here.
Oh yeah, you can get talk about learning, how to advocate for yourself, and quite frankly, it wouldn't surprise me if a gifted and talented kid would do that, because that's kind of their style. Yeah, they're just like, hey, here I am. So.
Oh, I see. There's a list here. I didn't ever get nominated.
It's all right, sir. I think you're doing pretty well, even despite not participating in the program.
At the secondary level, does each site have a GT coordinator?
Yes, they do. And I can tell you whenever, in the meeting when we were all together and it was announced that we were going to do the and approach rather than the or approach, oh my goodness, the excitement was really, it was absolutely evident in the room. Lots of murmurs like, oh, that's great. Because you see that kid who could really, really benefit, and you're just like, the points aren't making. And now this gives us an opportunity to really let students thrive and shine.
Some kids aren't test takers.
Pardon me?
Some kids are not test takers.
No, that's exactly right. And I think that it's important for us to recognize that. This should allow us to. Are there any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I want to applaud Ms. Trinidad's efforts, because under state law, you have the group 1 who has to score at the 97th percentile. But the state doesn't question group number 2 up to a certain percentage. So if we don't have enough group number 2, we actually have money on the table, that's funding that we could be getting in. And that's a considerable amount of funding if we don't have it maximized. So this is not only more funding for the district, but for those students, more programs. So this is very significant. I appreciate the work.
You're welcome.
And that's what I was looking up on my phone. I was trying to figure out what that funding threshold, but I couldn't remember the percentage. So I just wasn't texting. Because see, I know that Kim could actually ask for but we do have an action item on this, don't we?
We do?
Yes, we have to adopt it.
I'll move for approval. Second.
Call roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
All right. We, as you can see, we have a lot of information in this board meeting, and our, on under item 5F, this is an information item, and the board presented their big rocks to the community just not pretty recently. And what tonight, our staff, since at least June, has been just considering what their big rocks would be. And it was good to, you know, they kind of had a little pre-warning what the big rocks for the board would be before we publicly unveiled them, because that's what the board wanted to make sure that our staff had heads up. So what our staff will be doing is very quickly, the board has a copy, have a book. And matter of fact, for those of you this will be available online when Microsoft comes back alive. But the board has a copy of this book. It has every department's goals for the year. Each department identified 3 big rocks for them, and then they identified the big board rock that they would like to focus on. Now, each departmental leader will not come up and share all 3 of their goals, but they're going to pick the one, generally, in most cases, it'll be the very first one, that they'd like the board to really think about and be aware of, and see if the board has any questions. But everybody's been working hard on this. I'm very proud of them. And so I'm just going to get out of the way and have them start. Just to remember, just be ready as the next one goes. We'll just jump in. So we're going to start with, if the board doesn't have any questions for me, we're going to start with Miss Amy Fraser. All right, we'll just go right in the order of the book.
All right. Good evening. I'm Amy Fraser, Director of Elementary and Early Childhood, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to share my goal of building leadership capacity. Quality leadership is essential to an organization's success, and the ability for an organization to develop leaders who can achieve the organization's goals not only 1 year from now, but 5 years from now, is key to the long-term success and sustainability of those goals. This year, we have 16 elementary administrators who have 2 years or less in their current role. With such a large group of new leaders in this cohort, this is an exciting time for LPS to intentionally develop the leadership capacity of our principals and build a sustainable leadership pipeline for the future. So in addition to the regular professional development provided to all principals each month, new administrators will participate in a monthly leadership academy where they will advance both their technical and adaptive abilities through leadership training and development, collaborating with other administrators, and identifying specific goals for their individual development. Additionally, frequent site visits with relevant and in-the-moment coaching and feedback will be provided to provide support and accountability for our principal leaders. Principal leadership affects the achievement of every student in a school, and therefore, the big rock most aligned with this goal is academic excellence.
Will they come back and report to the board like at the end of the year for something like what you're doing, or?
I thought it was quarterly.
We're going to do, we'll do.
Everybody's going to do it by quarter?
I thought
We'll do a checkup each month. For example, safety and security will be in September. October is going to be customer service.
I just didn't know something.
And then we're going to do that again in the spring. And so they'll give you at least 2 checkups this year.
I just didn't know that ours is so large that maybe it was like here's where we started and here's where we. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Hi, good evening, board members. My name is Karen Cooksey, Director of Elementary Education. Yes, ma'am.
Before you start,
yes.
Pat Henry's in an uproar because you've left.
Oh.
You know, I've heard about it. I told him that you had the right to move on to bigger things.
Well, I can tell you they're in great hands, and I've gotten to where I don't cry when I pull in the
Yes, they
parking
are.
lot. So I am mourning them as well. Thank you for that. Thank you for the opportunity to share one of my goals with you this evening. The goal I will talk to you about is my role in assisting our building leaders with tracking trend data and developing aligned action steps. I know that sounds exciting. This is critical due to changes in how our state holds us accountable for student achievement. We are grateful that our state has moved to more of a growth model in tracking student achievement as outlined in our school report card. This, we believe, is a more equitable measure of success. However, like anything, it's more complex. So it's important for us to be able to identify subgroups and how they are performing, as well as track the growth of our students. And Dr. Polk did a great job of alluding to this earlier as well. It is exciting that we have already made strides in shifting how we look at data. For example, just last week, our curriculum office with Teresa Jackson's leadership planned a professional development using our STAR assessment software. Our principals were able to review this data based on our first window of testing, and then my job this week during site visits will be to support our principals as they review this data and then develop action steps based on the identified needs. So this is just one example of how I can support building leaders in a way that will positively impact students. This goal serves the Board of Education Big Rock of customer service, and I do appreciate your time and your vision.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carol McPhail, and I'm Director of Middle Schools. And I'd like to extend a special thank you for allowing me to share one of my big rocks or goals with you. The big rock I'm going to be sharing is increasing academic achievement. The action steps that I will be taking to ensure the success of this goal include the following: make frequent visits to the sites, monitor the STAR 360 assessment data, attend all grade level collaborations, observe and calibrate with principals in classrooms, provide both oral and written feedback, provide support and accountability, and provide professional development for principals and teachers. I plan to tie this with the Board of Education goal of customer service by ensuring these steps are done in a culture conducive to learning in which all stakeholders are proud to be a part of Lawton Public Schools.
Good evening, I'm Kelly Trinidad. I'm the Executive Director of Secondary Education. My goal here that I'd like to visit with you about relates to customer service. Above all, our mission as a school district is to graduate students. That is what it boils down to, no more, no less, graduate students. And it's our responsibility to them to serve them in this capacity. So my goal relates to your customer service goal. My big rock for this year is to increase the number of credit-ready seniors prepared for graduation. So during this first semester, we prepare them for spring graduation, and then the second semester, which will be another set of goals, that's where we move to the final act of graduation on that. There's going to be a varied way that we go about doing and achieving this. The first thing that we need to focus on, and truly the work of graduation, really the grit of that work happens on the campus, right there where the kids are. So what we're working towards is creating grade level teams of AP, which is an assistant principal, a counselor, and the attendance clerk. And they work as a unit on a particular group of students assigned to them. Now you'll recall you heard Dr. Pope talk about scrubbing students. When she says scrubbing students, it means identifying exactly what path those students are on, and if they're not with us, where did they go? Did they go to homeschooling? Did they go to online schooling? Did they go to another district? And now with our cohort, just as Dr. Pope was talking about, we have to track these kids from 9th into 10th, into 11th, and into 12th. So the work of that, tracking those kids, that's what those teams are going to be doing that have the AP, the counselor, and the attendance clerk. We're also going to be hosting we say hosting, the students would probably say being subjected to. Intervention sessions, and that is whenever students are brought in individually, specifically to have that eyeball-to-eyeball discussion about what is your game plan. So we're going to be having accountability on those, and principals and campus leaders will be reporting in how many intervention sessions they've had, what the results are, and how they're tracking those particular students, because we can identify a student as early as 3rd grade as a potential dropout. Research has shown that. So there is no reason for us to not know who we need to be tending to and taking care of with that extra measure. We're going to be looking at increasing our blended learning and virtual learning opportunities. Many of our students today, they are not living the lives that we lived. They oftentimes have jobs, they have family responsibilities, and that requires some flexibility in how they go about acquiring their knowledge and their expertise in the educational field. So we're looking at increasing those blended opportunities. We're also going to be putting in some effort on some mandatory tutorials for students failing classes, and of course the ICAP that Dr. Polk mentioned. That stands for an individualized career and academic plan. And in fact, it was said to me, and I have to give the credit to Dr. Polk today, during the meeting, she talked about when people walk away. And people walk away from situations when they're confused, when there's confusion. They stay with situations when it's clear. And the ICAP, whenever we sit down and we develop that pathway for that student, suddenly confusion falls away and they have a direction to walk. And that means they stay with us, and that's what the goal is to get them to that graduation level. So those are the efforts that we're going to be putting forth on improving that graduation rate. Do you have any questions? Yes.
This is every single child will be put into a group so that I mean, there's like a group that's in the middle where people kind of don't think about them. The ones that are the higher achievers are the ones that are.
You bet.
Those are the ones that I wonder fall
Absolutely.
through the cracks a little bit.
Every student is going to be assessed as to whether or not they're at risk, and we're finding out that our Infinite Campus software is really an incredibly robust system. I've worked with it before. There's even tracking systems on there where if you're putting in the right data, as in what data and what credits is that child receiving, it will actually tell us immediately whether or not that child is on track or not. And therefore, it doesn't require one individual to go through and count up to 23, because you've got to have 23 credits to graduate. So we're looking at ways to automate that so that every child, because every child deserves that attention.
Right.
And that's what we want to give them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Brenda Hatch, and I will be sharing my own personal goal here in a few minutes, but right now I'm going to represent Fred Roloff. Fred is not, my teammate Fred, he is not here tonight, and I definitely wanted to share with you his big rock or his big goal. If you look at his number one big rock, it is to make sure that the interim assessment results are returned to the teachers in a timely manner, and that might not sound like a big deal, but it really is. If we want our data to drive instruction, then our goal is to have a 48-hour turnaround. When those major assessments are over, have the results back in the teacher's hands, because then they turn around and write teacher action plans to start addressing those objectives that did not meet standard, the ones that we're struggling with the most, to identify individuals and small groups that we need to start pulling with. You don't want to get your data 2 weeks down the road. You need it right away. And so that's his major goal that he's working on this year.
Good evening, board members. My name is Gary Dees, and I'm the Director of Athletics. I wanted to start off by thanking you for letting me speak to you tonight. My big rock was to develop and implement professional development for my coaches. Last Friday, I had a meeting with the coaches, and we conducted professional development with them. We had 3 guest speakers who come and spoke on athletic-related topics. I spoke to them about events and making our district the best it could possibly be, our athletic department. And we discussed compliance, leadership, and had an emphasis on our big board goal of safety and security. Going forward, I will meet with the coordinators throughout the year to continue these discussions and the development of our coaches. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Teresa Jackson, Director of Curriculum and Grants. Big rock I've chosen to be my top one is with the Reading Sufficiency Act to increase the 3rd grade reading pass rate on the OSTP test. I feel that with the use of the STAR 360 assessment and targeting certain reports, and those reports will be the diagnostic report, the instructional student planning report, and the state standards pathway to proficiency report, along with the Reading Plus program that we have, And the Reading Plus program covers comprehension and vocabulary, and that's what the state's test covers. So we're going to increase their ability to have better comprehension and vocabulary through that. Those along with the effective teaching strategies in our new textbook series, I'm confident that we can meet this goal. Through this goal, we will look at the big board rock of customer service and working with all of our teachers, our administrators, our colleagues, and helping them get along throughout all of the challenges that we may face with this. But as I said, I'm confident that we can reach this goal. Is there any questions? We test kindergarten through second with STAR Early Literacy. And then starting with third grade, it's STAR 360 reading.
Good evening. I'm Teresa Donahue, Director of Federal Programs. And the big rock that I'm sharing with you today is to increase awareness and knowledge of the English learner students' instructional needs. And the key strategies that will be implemented to support this are to first provide training for our newly hired district English learner teacher trainer. And then we want to provide district staff with professional development opportunities for obtaining teaching strategies for English learner students through monthly webinars that will be posted on our federal program website, monthly learning-centered instruction, commonly known as LCI meetings, and through monthly LPS continuous professional development opportunities. And we'll also provide professional development for classroom teachers and parent trainings by Amber Parks. She's a writing with design consultant, and that's to ensure that writing strategies for English learner students are available to teachers and parents. And this goal supports the big rock of the board's academic excellence. Yes.
Days when we called it ESL. You mentioned parents. So we do help the parents, because a lot of the parents are not English speakers.
Yes, it is a component of the Title III grant that we do have parent involvement activities. Thank you.
All right. Back. Again, Brenda Hatch, Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, and thank you for allowing me to share my goal of establishing a quality instruction framework. For the past 4 years, the district shepherds have been coaching principals to observe teachers and give them feedback so they can improve their instructional practices. The problem is we've never defined quality instruction or developed a framework so we would have common teaching expectations across our district. The framework will guide professional development for principals and teachers with a goal of being able to walk into any classroom in our district and see evidence of implemented rules and procedures, mutual respect between teachers and students, clear learning goals that have been communicated to the students, the design of quality lesson plans, all students engaged in learning, assessment data being used to drive instruction, and high expectations for learning. My goal of establishing a quality instruction framework will support the Board of Education's big rock of academic excellence.
Good evening, I'm Chris Sharkey. I'm the Director of Special Services, and the big rock I'd like to discuss with you this evening is decreasing the number of special education dropout students. To give you a little history, 2016, 2017, we had 9 special ed students that dropped out. For the 2017, 2018, that number more than tripled, close to 30 students that dropped out. A few of them were going to homeschool, a few were pursuing their GED, but most of them were dropped out because of non-attendance, or they were dropped out because of their whereabouts were unknown. So what we would like to do with special services is to work closely with the school counselors, the registrars, as well as the Great Plains Technology SCORE program, and that way we can track those students that drop out. In addition, special services will review quarterly the WAVE dropout report, as well as Infinite Campus and Ed Plan. What we hope to do is make personal contact with those students that have dropped out, see if their IEP can, any accommodations can be made through their IEP to help them get back into school and so they can pursue their high school diploma. This goal will fall under the Board of Education goals as far as safety, security, customer service, and accountability. Any questions you might have? Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. My name is Mark Mattingly, and I'm Executive Director for Student Services. I also have the added responsibility of working with Ms. Trinidad in secondary education on career readiness activities. One of my big rocks is to develop career readiness programs for all LPS students. And this spills right over into the ICAP that both Dr. Polk and Ms. Trinidad were speaking about earlier. To that end, I'd like to share a specific goal for this first semester, and that is to institute a senior conference for the district. The purpose will be to introduce all 12th grade students to issues and responsibilities that they'll encounter as they enter the adult world. Lawton First Assembly Church has agreed to allow the use of their facilities, where we'll bus approximately 800 12th grade students on November 27th to their campus. Students will hear from a keynote speaker, then attend 3 30-minute breakout sessions of their choice to hear community partners speak on a variety of topics such as college bound, what do I do now, military culture, the do's and don'ts of social media. Ms. Edwards will be presenting that session. Vehicle responsibility, job prep, Healthcare 101, to name just a few. This event connects to the Board of Education customer service goal, as we'll be providing a service preparing students for the future and allowing local employers to interact with future employees. Are there any questions?
Have we got this lined out? Do we have already put this in place? Will this bill actually?
I wish.
I mean, I was like,
I'm working
way
fast
big
and
on
furious on it. Yeah, we have a lot. We have all the speakers. We have everything lined out. It's just logistics. We've got to get some.
And just saying, I mean, I work with some ladies that have some kids that have just, they're like 19, 20 years old, and they're like, what do you mean we have to fill out a tax return? Don't the government already know? We give them the money, don't they just send us back? I mean, they don't know things, and it's like,
yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, we have a session on that too,
You know,
paying taxes.
just things that we would have thought you would know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm very excited about that.
Closer to time.
We're
and
excited
stick our
about
head
it.
into
I'm
it.
sorry,
I said,
what?
remind us closer to time so we can maybe come observe a little bit.
Yeah, we'll make sure you know about it. All right, thank you.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Steve Dyer, and I am the General Manager of the Child Nutrition Department. And tonight, I am very excited to share with you information about a big rock for our department, which is implementing a new assistant manager training program. This has been a vision of mine for some time, and the implementation of this program will enhance the quality of operations and help us meet the board's big rock goal of customer service. The program also gives our internal staff an opportunity to advance to a higher level of responsibility and to learn new skills. Often, principals struggle to find people with proper qualifications to hire a new cafeteria manager. And many times in the past, we've had to place an untrained staff person in a leadership position with little or no training. Our organized and planned approach for training individuals in incremental steps will help ensure that assistants are fully qualified to lead a cafeteria. This is just one of the many benefits of this program. My team is 100% behind this project, and we look forward to delivering the benefits of this program to all. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Lynn Cordes, Director of Communications, and I'm excited to share some of the ways that we are working to keep the public informed in our department. If you happen to look online this past weekend, you may have seen a new updated webpage with the new feature of Contact the Soup and just our gallery. We also worked on publishing a magazine, and we're incorporating our students. That's one of the ways that we're excited about partnering this year and letting our parents know what's going on, not just from our end, but from the aspect of our students. So we're doing that. We're also staying up and implementing new social medias because it's always changing. Parents are more on Facebook, kids are more on Instagram, so we're keeping up with that. And we're just kind of trying to expand our services for our community so that they're constantly aware of all of the good, positive things. And if they have questions, how we can help them in our department by answering them and just pointing them in the right direction. So, any questions? Yes, ma'am.
If we go on and you click on the different schools and stuff, some schools are like awesome at this. I mean,
Yes.
their information is very good and some information is not. And how can we get that to where, I mean, it's just important for, and not picking on anybody, but say, this school over here's 7th grade football schedule's on, but this school over here is not. How do you?
Something that we didn't do last year was follow up and follow through. We've kind of expanded our team, and so as of last week, we had deadlines to staff at the school, and so once the deadline passed, we followed up, and we have some other follow-ups with the sites. If they're just lacking in training, we did professional development videos, so now they don't have to get out of the school, but they can come and just go on YouTube. We send them those direct links, so now they're not having to wait another day to train. They can do it at home and then answer, help push out some of that information. We're all online on our emails checking up, and so instead of us doing it for them, we want to give them some empowerment and doing it and then follow through. So yes, there are some sites, and as of this morning, we were on there writing notes and sending them videos so that they could update their web pages. So it will be better in the coming months. That's something we always tackle. Sometimes they just are so busy in the day that they forget about the website, but that's part of it.
And some sites were just so much more informative. I
Yes.
mean, they hit the key points. School starts here, don't come before this time, this is what's, and then some sites was just kind of like school starts and.
Well, and I think sometimes they feel that Facebook is the only place they go to, but families coming in, it's the website. And so if we're on it as much as they are, we just go directly to them now, and we don't wait for them to fix it. We just address it and say, hey, this is not updated on your website. Here's where you need to go. Please keep it up to date. And so every week, my staff is on there now, tracking down a school, sending images, and finding some new things for them.
Well, I feel like our elementary, we're really training them to do that, to use our websites, to go to their schools, to do that.
Our elementaries, I think, are the hardest ones because the middle school and the high school have dedicated teachers to do that, but the elementaries don't. The teachers are doing it.
But
so.
I think that's where we'll capture our parents, to start using our stuff.
That's right. And so if you see something, I know Ms. Nyworth is good and Kelly's good about it, and Dr. Bridges, they kind of, at their school, if they go looking for something, if you happen to notice something's not right.
I'm not good at telling you.
You can email me. People are good all the time. That's right. Just say, hey, this staff is not updated, and it easily could be something that we've just missed.
Right.
So.
Well, I just saying, it's so exciting to do this, and our websites are coming along so fantastic.
We're working hard. It's a daily thing, and so we're working on it.
Great job.
Yeah. So if there's anything you guys happen to see, let us know. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Brown-Hill, the Executive Director of Finance, and I have to say it's an honor and privilege to be a part of the Lawton Public Schools Board's Big Rocks. The big rock that I would like to talk about is something that I've already touched on. Prior to receiving the letter from the auditor, I had started working on my big rocks. I think it was back in July, which happens to be one of the same things that was mentioned in the letter before, so I apologize for going over it again. But my big rock is streamlining the financial documents that we currently have in place, which I've already touched on, and so I'm not going to go back into why I want to streamline it. But streamlining those financial documents bring me to the board goal that I have selected, which is customer service. Many may say, how does streamlining financial documents improve customer service? because you're not spending so much time focusing on those Excel spreadsheets. You have more time to cater to those stakeholders, the departments, the sites that call us wanting to know, how much money is in their account, what they can spend it on, things like that. So you have more time to focus on customer service. And I have to say that I have a great finance team. And I know this may be a little different, but I'd like to acknowledge Kathy Bentley. She's part of my finance team, and she is the epitome of excellent customer service. So I'm sorry, Kathy. I'm sorry. But customer service is a key component of any business, whether you're corporate, public school, small business, it is key. Whenever someone walks into the finance department, I want them to be greeted with a smile. When they leave, I want them to leave with a smile, knowing that we've done our job and we've done it well. So that's my big rock, and again, thank you. I didn't want to go in any further because you've already heard everything about the streamlining, and I don't want to take up any more of your time. So any questions? Thank you.
Good evening, board members and all. My name is Donald McKeag. I am with the Facilities Maintenance Department. Tonight, I would like to share with you our biggest rock, transitioning our department over to Sodexo Management Services. At this time, there will be a lot of unknowns to fully understand the magnitude of this big rock. We have had several meetings with Sodexo Management, and I understand more each day about the expectations of what Sodexo Management will mean to our district. I must admit, we are all a little nervous with change. You always are. However, my goal is to help all my coworkers to understand and changes to communicate anything positive or negative, to always keeping in mind the district's best interests. I would like everyone in our department to work with Sodexo to make sure that this transition runs smoothly and effectively for the district. Thank you.
Working side by side with them, right? I mean.
As far as I know, unless they run me off.
They haven't yet.
They haven't yet. So we're doing good.
I don't think that's, okay.
We're doing good. Like I said, I think everything's
So,
gonna be all right.
Do they ask
Pardon
you
me?
questions? Do they come to you and ask you what you see as our pertinent needs right now? Number one, how are they dealing with you?
Well, they've been real good. Like I said, I've been pretty well, doing what I have to do. They're always, asking, hey, if you need any help. And I said, well, yes, but usually it's emergency situations, it's regular work orders. But like I said, they've been real good. We've not had any problems. Like I said, they've always been helpful, but at the same time, I'm still trying to go ahead and carry out my duties, like they have been. Because like Dr. Deegan said earlier, I've been trying to, run it for the last couple months, or have been running it for the last couple months. But I've got a great staff of men, employees, custodial, grounds, and maintenance. So, like I said, it's pretty easy when you got good help.
We'll go over there to Tomlinson and look at their, they got some issues.
We are looking constantly, getting phone calls constantly, and trying to get, potholes fixed.
It's not even a pothole. It's more like a crater.
Yeah.
I mean.
It is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're trying to address a lot of things. We're trying to keep the service road up behind Eisenhower Middle School.
So how does that work with us? I mean, what becomes the city's property and what becomes our property there? Because, you kind of drive through that little roadway, but we've got,
Is that our road between the
Yeah,
ball
'cause,
field and the school, or is that?
Well, I believe it's the city's road, but like I said, the easements on both sides are still ours. I mean, the easements, we're still having to take care of those. And those holes, I believe that you're talking about is right there by the softball field.
there's some by the softball field, but there's like, how we have the, what do you call them? Where you go over them?
Speed
bumps, there you go. Speed bumps. Well, there's one, I couldn't get it out for nothing, where it looks like we've tried to patch some, but I'm thinking it might be the city's situation. There's almost,
I will have to check on that to make sure, and like I said, we've been working hand in hand with the city on a lot of things, and like I said, I can get with them tomorrow and do more looking at that to see what we do need to do.
I feel bad for those teachers that are having to put up with
The
that.
city will have to
Yes,
pay for
ma'am.
their car if they don't fix it.
And we had a phone call, I know from some patrons of the community in that area too, you know, asking about it.
Right.
So like I said, just trying to get everything, you know, handled as we can.
Right.
And it's not always easy.
No, of course not. Of course not. It doesn't help that a school board member drives by it every day.
Thank
Without going by all the other buildings, so.
I will start checking on that,
All right,
like
no
I said, see
problem.
what I can do
Thank
with the
you.
city of Lawton also.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Jean Hastings, and I'm the Director of Human Resources, and my big goal is to focus on recruitment to reflect our student composition. One thing I noticed as I read journals over this last year, National Public Radio, Teaching Tolerance, the New Teacher Project, all had articles basing academic success in the classroom is increased by having the population that deals with the students to reflect that student's ethnicity, their race, their cultural makeup. We've not done a study in Lawton Public Schools for some year as to how our population is reflected against the student population. So this year I will be looking at the analytics of that, not only with our faculty, but also our full staff and then our full student body, and breaking it down by site also, that as we go into staffing in the spring, that we can better address the issues for our students, driving accountability as well as academic achievement in our classrooms. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Good evening. I'm AJ Watson, the Director of Information Technology.
And you broke Microsoft today?
I didn't break it. I got a text this morning that it was broken. Then I found out the e-meeting was broken, so they're working on it, I promise. I'm here to share one of my goals for this year. My department will be working on quality assurance. We want to ensure that our work is being performed in a fast and friendly manner, but also the correct way. Soon district staff will have the opportunity to provide feedback on work orders that they have submitted, and they'll be able to rate the computer tech on their timeliness, their attitude, and the overall job that was completed. Additionally, our lead computer tech will follow through on work orders to verify that the job was done in a way that meets the standard which we hope to achieve and to maintain. If he comes across a job that maybe the tech needs an additional training on, then either he or our roving computer tech will team up with them and kind of give them some guidance. So, our goal is quality assurance, and it aligns with your big rock of customer service. So,
And you're aware that when these that are filmed, that we can't hear, that people can't hear, the audio's not good?
actually, we worked on that before this board meeting, so it should be a lot better.
Oh, all right, great, I'll find it when I get home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Good evening. I'm David Irwin. I'm the Director of Information Systems. I want to talk about my big rock of automated data error notification and corrections. That's a mouthful, yeah. This summer we purchased an audit tool for Infinite Campus that will log every change that happens in that system, whether it happens with a user out at the school that's entered some information in, or whether it's one of my staff that has ran a database script in the background. Our hope is to, with this goal, is to use that tool to generate automated messages out to everybody that is impacted when a change occurs. So a student's household information change, they may need transportation information that's updated, they may need a transfer, we may need a resident affidavit, there's a lot of pieces that go out. So right now when we're working on a cleanup task, we have to start at aardvark and work our way through every single kid in the district to see where the problems lie. And my hope with this system is we'll be able to be reactive to where the changes are occurring, which will help us work much more efficiently and help everybody in the schools work more efficiently. I feel that that ties into customer service. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Barbara Ellis, but I'm standing here in the place of David McDermott, your Media Operations Director and Media Technology Center. The big rock I'd like to speak with you about is on reviewing and stocking of items in the Instructional Media Center and supplies. This fits directly with your big rock of customer service. We stock over 400 supply items that are used daily throughout the district. It has been a number of years since we've reviewed these items to ensure that we're stocking items that teachers, schools, and staff need on a daily basis. At the same time, we need to review items that are no longer needed and no longer used and purge them from our inventory. One way I plan on doing this is by obtaining information from staff by sending out a needs survey of new items and compare it to the stock that we have. I can then begin the process of placing it out for bid, comparing prices, and seeing how much we can save our staff monetarily, and it might ultimately make their job easier. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paula Deal, and I'm the Director of Payroll. The goal I'd like to share with you this evening is the finalization of the frontline system for our time and attendance. We've been using this as a payment source for our full-time benefited employees since February of this year. So our challenge now is to roll in the part-time, non-benefited employees. We need to train our campus users and our supervisors on what those weekly approval processes look like. We need to set routine procedures so that our payroll processing will be more time efficient. And we need to complete our checks and balances, complete where we can be more proactive and informative for our employees who are facing maybe long-term leave situations. And I believe with the weekly collaborations of the business operations team that this can be like 98% fully engaged in the frontline system by the end of this year. This will eliminate the teachers' leave scanner sheets as well as the time cards. This process references the board goals for customer service and also accountability. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Chief Hornbeck with Lawton Public School Police Department. Thank you for allowing me to present my big rock to you this evening. The main big rock I have is enhanced elementary school security. Since I've been the Chief of Police for the Lawton Public School Police Department, I've analyzed holes in our security both in the secondary and elementary levels. We've not had much of an elementary program going since I've been employed with the district since 2012. When I became the chief, I started a roaming officer for our elementary schools on an as-needed basis. Last year, we stepped that up, and we used officers in a zoning off our elementary schools, utilizing reserve officers to enhance the elementary school patrol. And this year, after brainstorming with Dr. Deegan and other staff members and people on the executive team, we decided that we needed to step up our game in our elementary schools and make our elementary schools a harder target. And we have decided to hire 18 additional police officers this year and place one police officer in each elementary school and work them 35 hours a week, and which would be a great added security to our school, to our district. We're going to go from a 14-man department to a 32-man department. We started that hiring process at the beginning of the school year. We came up with an agility test to make sure the applicants we were getting were going to be of a good quality and be able to withstand the daily tortures of being on your feet and working with the kids and having to do the duties we do. And we was very successful. Our first agility test was Friday. We had 11 applicants show up, and 8 of them passed. We interviewed those 8 today, and out of the 8, I recommended that we hire each one of them. So that has been passed on to Human Resources, and that paperwork should be started pretty soon, and we'll start implementing those officers into the buildings at a very short period. We've talked about uniforms for the school officers. We wanted to go with a little softer uniform than what we currently wear as police officers to make that integration into the elementary schools a little better. And we decided this uniform here would be the softer uniform we were looking for, easily identifiable for law enforcement entering into the building if we had a situation in there. Outside agencies would be easily able to identify that school marshal as a police officer, and we wouldn't have a situation that we wouldn't want to occur. My long-term goal of this is, hopefully, And I think this is very trackable, that we can see these elementary school officers come into the elementary, start building rapport with these students, and hopefully in a couple or 3 years, we can start seeing attitude changes in our middle school students, and hopefully that'll reflect into our high school students in further years to come, and hopefully it'll change onto the streets with the officers at LPD that have to deal with our future career-bound citizens. Any questions from the board?
We have one of our officers going to be
I have
speaking too.
talked with the colonel, and I've talked with Cox at Comanche Nation at Fort Sill PD. They're working on some things. Officer Cox has promised me that they would have an enhanced presence of Fort Sill police officers at the elementary school this year, and I've already verified that has taken place. I've already gotten word from staff members out there. They're seeing Fort Sill PD out there quite regularly now.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. My name is Trey Cook, and I'm the Director of Transportation. And what I want to share with you today is my Big Rock, which are thrill share notifications. And basically what these are text messages initiated from our transportation department that go out to parents and staff through the individual school's call log, and it notifies them of late buses, of double runs, things out of their normalcy. They're not built in for just 5 minutes late, but they're built in for things that run out of 30 minutes out of their normalcy, or things that are unexpected, for bus breaks down, things of that sort, to give parents a notification with this. We have implemented the elementary August 20th. We will implement the secondary October 2nd. A lot of positive feedback from the schools, from the parents. We have saw a decline in calls regarding this, and we will assess it and make changes as we go along through the school year. It's been a positive, and it falls under our non-negotiables and our Board of Education big rocks, which are safety and security.
What's a double run?
Double run means that one bus is going to go back to the school, they'll take a load of kids, then they'll come back and pick up the other load of students, which makes them about 10 to 15 minutes late. So, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes everybody's presentations. If the board have any questions?
I think everybody did a fantastic job, very, very informative. I'm excited to see how this school year is going to play out. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 6, architect's report.
Yeah, we do have an architect's report. Mr. Miller?
Oh, you mean Corey hung around?
Good evening. I'm Corey Miller with Architects in Partnership, and it's been a very productive summer here at Lawton. Hope you guys have all had a chance to get out into the facilities and see the improvements that have been made. I know Lynn has been doing a great job publicizing everything that's been going on the website and Facebook, and there's a lot of great pictures out there and a lot of great feedback from the community too. Coming up here shortly, we're going to have final inspections on Adams HVAC, Edison re-roof, MacArthur High School's cafeteria, Carriage Hills re-roof, and the Lawton High School re-roof. We've got substantial completion right around the corner on Woodland Hills HVAC, MacArthur Middle School HVAC, Tomlinson re-roof, and MacArthur High School windows. There has been a delay in the Lawton High School windows project, but we're working on ways to speed that along. And Lincoln's HVAC project is about 40% complete, so we'll see that finishing up here soon. You know, students are back, so the bulk of the work that was done this summer has put them in good position to transition, 2 classrooms at a time, so that we didn't displace too many students all at once. Had the chance today to go by all the safe room projects that are going on. I'll be sending some field notes on that, but we've broken ground everywhere with the installation of security fencing, keeping the kids safe distance from the construction sites. We have 3 that really have notable progress made if you were to go by those, and that would be at Woodland Hills. We've got storm sewers going in. Almore West, we have the foundation excavation, as well as site utilities that are beginning there. And Sullivan Village has its storm system being installed right now too.
Crossland will be updating you more here in just a moment, but we've had our first round of bids for Eisenhower Middle School, and things look great. We're trending in the right direction, saved some money over the estimate. So we're actually out for bid for our second round. That advertised last Tuesday, the 28th, and we'll be opening bids on September 25th for the majority of the rest of the construction. We do have a handful of packages that we're recommending not be bid until after the first of the year, 2019. That way we see some cost savings and these subcontractors not having to extend their bidding capacity for things that aren't going to be done until, you know, late 2019, early 2020. Y'all have any questions for me tonight?
We had a big conversation about the steel situation.
Yes.
Has that changed at all?
Yes, and in the right way. We actually saved about $900,000 over the estimate for steel. So the you know, percentage that we had in there, just planning for the worst, was plenty enough to cover that.
Good. Great.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Gordon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 7 is report of the superintendent.
Under item 7A, I have discussion regarding guaranteed maximum price amendment number 1 for the Eisenhower Middle School construction project. We have representatives from Crosslands Construction. And just a reminder, this will be discussion. The actual vote on these bids is in the consent agenda.
Good evening, everybody. I got a pretty loud voice, sorry. So I'll just go over the overview for GMP number 1 and the bid package number 1 that bid out a couple weeks back. So I'll start by each scope that we did. We did a total of 5 scopes, or 6 scopes. We did the existing auxiliary gym demolition, the building concrete, the structural steel erection, clearing and earthwork, storm, and overall utilities. What I'll do is the summary sheet and the remaining sheets behind that, we're going to have the Crossland recommendation. So I'll do those ones first, and then I'll give an overview of the summary. So for trade contract 2A, building demolition, that's the auxiliary gym from the existing structure that's currently there. It's Crossland's recommending M&M Wrecking for a total of $25,500. For trade contract 3A, building concrete, we are recommending Crossland Construction for a total of $3,348,000. For trade contract 3B, site concrete, we are recommending that we rebid this, and that's part of the scopes that we're going to bid at the end of the year. That's going to help save us money due to bonding capacities. For trade contract 5A, structural steel, we are recommending Shawnee Fabricators at $2,882,500. For trade contract 31A, earthwork, we are recommending Crossland at $800,039. You'll see there that Future Inc. only has $198,000. That was because they only bid about a quarter of what was actually called out, so theirs was actually, it was null and void. They didn't bid everything that was in it. For 33A, storm sewer, we are recommending Smith's Backhoe at $273,928. For trade contract 33B, we're the site water, sanitary, and gas, recommending Young Construction at $355,000. And then going back to the summary. So I won't go through all the trades again, we just went over those, but I will go over the variance that we did save. So it has it broken out for GMP number 1 total, and the next column is what we originally estimated it to be for the 95%. And then what's currently called out for original budget for bid package number 2, that is what the estimate is for the 95% estimate currently right now. We'll know going into, once we actually bid that, how we come up on it. Hopefully we are heading in the right path, because we're currently looking at about $1 million saving based on what we knew on subs. They like to bid it a little bit high because they don't want to be over budget. So good news for us going into this. Any questions from anybody? No? All right. Thank you, guys.
So if there are any more questions on item 7A, 7B can be a relatively quick discussion. As the board remembers and the public, Senate, or 1026XX, thank you all. And if anybody else that is, needs to step out, I understand. 1026XX established support raises from the state level for the first time in the history of the state. One of the problems, however, is the legislators probably didn't understand that a full-time equivalent employee in the state of Oklahoma school system is not 40 hours a week, nor is it 12 months of the year. It's actually as little as 32 hours a week, 10 months out of the year. And so when they did that and instructed in the bill to make it, to prorate it, et cetera, nobody knew what they meant. We had no idea. So what we did is very quickly, with the board's blessing, the board did accept this proposal, is to adopt a permanent pay raise of a minimum of $12.50 to be paid out in 2. And that was a placeholder. It was permanent and it was not a one-time stipend, but that gave our staff time for some clarity. Oklahoma State Department of Education has essentially come out since then with guidance, and we received that guidance over the last few weeks. And the guidance essentially outlines some of the options we have in a nutshell. The raise, we know now that the raise not only covers full-time employees by the state definition of 40 hours a week, but also those that work the 1,080 hours or something like that. I can't remember the exact number, but those that would work in some jobs, we would not consider them full-time. And so, and in addition to that, the raise not only covers those people, but it also covers all part-time workers. So this will cover everybody under our salary scale. The question I have for the board is the staff is, and I've got to give Gene Hastings and Paula Deal's staff hats off to them. They have worked tirelessly on this. We want to get a permanent solution in. If we do the $650, it's going to be a little bit of a nightmare. So we knew we had to get something fixed in between now and there. The big question is, we could, under the law and under the interpretations, we could afford staff members a different pay raise based on the number of hours they work. That would mean, for example, somebody that worked 40 hours a week, 12 months out of the year, would get a smaller per hour raise than somebody who worked, for example, 32 hours a week, 10 months out of the year. I would actually be legal technically under the law. Not technically, it would be legal. So we really have two options before us, and I wanted to get the board's feedback. Are we interested in, how would the board feel about something like that, where people that work would get different pay raises, per hour pay raises, to equal $12.50 no matter how many hours they worked? So that means on one end of the spectrum, somebody might get an 80-cent hour raise. On the other end of the spectrum, they might get a $1.22 an hour raise based on how many hours they work. That would, to me, that would be a technical, we would be adhering to the law. The other hand is, so one question is, do we want differing levels of raise, or do we want to make sure that we give everybody the same per hour raise across the board? Those are really the two questions we're wrestling with. We did not want to pursue. We're going to have a recommendation on the September 20 board meeting, and it will replace the previous recommendation. I think the staff will be glad to have that happen, but we wanted to get input from the board. This did not slow down the process at all, but we thought this would be a good chance to hear from the board to make sure that we're thinking along the same lines. So between the two questions, different levels raises based on a different number of hours you work, or across the board the same raise. That means somebody that works 12 months out of the year would actually get a bigger raise than $12.50. And those that work the minimum number of hours would at least get the $12.50, but the same number, the same dollar per hour raise would be across the board, if that makes sense.
So how will that impact our budget?
It'll be a budget problem, but we do believe we can, one of the things, you know, we, as as Elizabeth Brownhill shared, our carryover did increase last year by modest, but a very, we're in a healthy shape financially. We're doing some additions this year. I do expect our carryover to go down this year because we're going to spend a lot of it. This will be one of those areas, but we have time to mitigate this as time rolls on, where I'm not overly concerned about the expense. Other districts have already implemented the upper rate, which would be $1.22 across the board. Other districts have also done some different things. So it will be a burden to us, but ultimately I think we can absorb it and mitigate the impact over the next few years and become just part of doing business.
Well, I feel like for morale purposes, it would be absolutely fabulous if we went across the board with the same hourly raise.
I think that was the intent of the
I think so too. I think so too.
I think it would be hard to explain to somebody who's working, for example, Mr. McKegg's staff, they're working 40 hours a week, 12 months a year. They would actually, under that interpretation, would get a smaller raise of about 80 cents an hour, and somebody who's working fewer hours would get a bigger raise. And so, in talking to Ms. Deal and Ms. Hastings, we thought that would be the board's mind, but we want to at least hear from you.
I agree.
So a larger, whatever we do, do the same for everybody.
Yes, exactly.
That's the easy way to put it.
It's easier for them too.
Yes, easier for them. So we're working on that. And again, this discussion did not slow down this at all. I've already sent a notice to the staff that we would be doing this on the September 20th board meeting. But this gave us an opportunity to confirm that we were going the direction that the board, and we're on the same page. We assumed what the board would want, but we thought it'd be great for you all to hear it, for us to hear it from you as well. So if there are any more questions or comments on that, again, there's no action on this item. It's just a feedback for us. 7B. I'll move to 7C. Just a couple of really quick announcements. First, if you have right here. Yeah. Sodexo is in the house today, so we will, but Mr. Steve Dyer brought us these from the OSSBA committee. It not only includes those from around the state, but if you'll notice, the very first one is our own we're very proud of her, and everybody here had a little bit of the Asian fusion recipe that she produced.
It's very good.
I could have some of that right now.
Yes, I think we're all hungry.
What, no food, Steve? Come on. No dinner.
Some other things, Lawton Public Schools athletes benefit a big way when proceeds from last month's Gridiron Plus Golf Scramble hosted by the Lawton Athletic Foundation were totaled. They raised in excess of $20,000, and those funds will go defray the cost of LPS secondary sports. The next event for the foundation will be the annual Pat Hunt Sporting Clay Shoot scheduled for October 13th at the LL Ranch east of Lawton.
Which I understand is quite fun.
Yes.
I went to the Gridiron and they were
Back in the day, before people frowned on this, we actually had our own turkey shoot at school one day. So things have changed since then.
I think that was before my time.
I'm gonna say.
That's what a small school will give you.
It must be small.
So we're not doing it. Let me go to it. We're not doing a turkey shoot, Cam.
Please.
That was just
no turkey.
in the mid-90s.
No turkeys, no.
Student walks down the hall with a shotgun. You pay attention. But that's the way things were there. It was a small country school. Exciting news today, also, to form another way to connect with our students, the LPS Communication Department is rolling out their inaugural online edition of the district-wide newspaper, the LPS Review. So we're going to have our own online newspaper. It was the first edition published today? Already.
So we can look at it.
Does it get emailed to us, or we just go find it? Okay.
If we want an email to be important, we send it out through Lynn, through Denise. Anything important doesn't go out through me, trust me. Nobody reads it.
No, but your picture's on every building.
Yes, it is now. Another thing, we wanted to recognize Eisenhower High School Ignition Program, and this is under Michelle Churchwell. She's the sponsor. Through their efforts, they donated $3,425 to the Family Promise of Lawton. And so we're very proud of Eisenhower High School and the work under Ms. Churchwell. And other than that, if the board doesn't have any questions, we can move on to that'll conclude my report.
Okay, item 8 is the consent agenda. Do we have any items that need to be pulled?
I would like to remove the CEA engineering contract. I don't have no idea what number it is.
Okay.
CEC.
CEC?
CEC,
142.
page 142.
Perfect.
Can we remove 8F2C, just for discussion, please?
Okay, and I've got the number, it's AF1D.
Do you know what page it is, Miss or Dr. Bridges?
Mine's on 159, sorry.
Okay.
In our new paper copy. In our new paper copy.
What was the page of the first one?
142.
142 and 159.
I move for approval of the remainder of the consent consent agenda.
Second?
Call roll, please.
Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay, CEC,
Okay.
142.
My question's on this, this is a $14,000 approval. I thought we already did all this on the fencing, so how come we're coming back and having to redo it? That's basically my question.
These are the tennis
Simple
courts,
question.
right?
Yes, this includes not only, it does include the tennis courts, but in the initial bid, they had to, the tennis courts, they had to do some more scope in the contract. Ms. Ellis can probably help a little bit more. But in addition to that, one thing they did not do when they did the initial evaluation, they did a total linear feet of number of feet in the district that needed to be replaced on the secondary campuses, et cetera. But they did not do an evaluation of the existing structures because it's incredibly expensive to replace the entire fencing structure, pull up all the poles and everything.
Right.
So we didn't actually assess whether any of those poles could be reused and just have new fabric on. So put that, the tennis courts and some other things in, they had to do some reevaluation, so it's extra work for them.
So this will be for all secondary schools, all 4 middle schools and 3 high schools, for fencing for everything, all around?
The bids ultimately encompass just about everything. There are a few areas that didn't need it. For example,
Right.
there are some outfields that have metal fencing. There's some other areas that, for Eisenhower Middle School already has it included in
Right,
the
of
new
course,
one.
of course.
So there's some other areas, but ultimately it breaks it down to specific areas.
Okay.
One of the issues, we rejected that bid. It did not include the principals requested the black vinyl coated, which will look really nice in our district. But the middle school principals did not get that option. So the original bid did not include, they were gonna get shiny steel chain link, while the rest of the district was gonna get black. So we wanted uniformity, so
this will include Central Middle School, even though their fencing probably doesn't need to be replaced?
and that was one of the questions. We need to replace the new fabric on it, or new chain link, but did we need to replace all the poles as well? It's a lot cheaper to stretch fabric than it is to
Oh, yeah.
dig holes, so.
Of course.
In the end, this will cost us a little bit more here, but we'll have a good evaluation and potentially save some money.
Okay, all right.
Did I get everything, Ms. Ellis? Yes. Okay.
Did he do very well? Did he include Tomlinson? I'm just teasing. I'm just kidding.
We're gonna put a fence around that hole.
So I can't see it. I'm sorry, I had to move for approval. Move for approval.
Second?
Call roll, please.
Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, discussion on 8F2C.
On page 159, and I'm going to have Mr. Dees here will be for support. This is the Coke contract. This is just a 6-month extension to get us through January or December 31st, whichever happens first.
Just to explain it so that it's clear for everyone, because this is probably one of the questions that I get the most. Maybe I go to too many ball games, I don't know. But this is a confusing contract. It's been the same contract forever, but it seems confusing for some reason. Could you explain it to us?
And your question is about use of different beverages in different events, is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Like, what is the differentiation of when we use these specific products and when they don't have to be used, how we go about getting these products?
I think that anything that's an athletic event, then this contract is in place for that. So anytime there was an athletic event, we would have to use Coke and order through Coke.
Even if it's even if the concession stand is run by a non-school function, like a PTA, a booster club.
Yes, it's basically an athletic contract. If it was something like a dance, maybe a homecoming dance that was off-site, it would not apply to us under that contract.
Okay.
They could basically, use whatever.
A lot of things
soft
are
drinks they
donated
want
to them, and they don't want to have to pay the bigger price.
Yeah.
Right. And it is bigger.
Yeah, it is bigger, and then we get rebates back from
Yeah,
Coke.
the
at end of
district
year.
does.
Okay,
not the
but
booster
how do we
club.
go about getting those rebates? Because a booster club or a PTA can't purchase them that way, or can they?
They can purchase them through Coke. They can make an order through Coke, and we encourage them to do that. The athletic department does get the rebates back, and then it all goes back to the schools as part of the budget that we
So
send out.
what, I might be getting in the weeds here, I'm sorry, but this is always a question. What kind of, account has to be set up? Because, let's say it's a booster club. A booster club can't use the LPS account. So can they set up a separate account through Coke to get this pricing, to get the product?
That may be a question for Mrs. Elizabeth Hill, on the, what kind of account you would need.
How would they even know to do
You know,
That's what I'm saying. This is why it's such a question.
about an account with Coke. She's not talking
Yeah,
about.
how does the
Right.
Eisenhower Basketball Booster Club buy product?
Can they not pay for it? If they ordered it, would they not pay for it when they received
I
it?
used to get a separate invoice from Coke.
I'm just, I mean, just.
That's what I'm asking. Because typically what they do is go to Sam's and we get no rebate
Correct.
for
Right,
it.
of
So
course.
it's,
We encourage the coaches that run our concession stands to, honor the contract and to buy from Coke. I could get back with you on that and get you a better answer if you want
If we
to.
can run it through the activity account and the booster
right,
club.
because
could just
sometimes it's
pay
not the
the
coaches
district
purchasing
for the
it.
product.
It's clubs.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah.
And how does that relate to elementary? Yeah.
It's just athletic events, so
Yeah.
the athletic events in
But we
elementary.
don't have it.
It says elementary. Includes it.
Yeah. That's what they're allowed to.
It's in their lounge.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's Coke's language.
Right.
But so you're saying if an elementary school had a bingo night, they can go to Sam's and buy
And buy whatever they want to,
Shasta?
yes. Mhm.
That's
Okay.
not covered.
So it's just athletic.
And our
Yeah,
athletic
if we could
events in
just
elementary aren't run by
Find out the
us.
question of, or the answer to, how can they go about getting their own accounts? Are we allowed to do that?
Okay, I'll get that information, I'll
Okay.
get to Dr. Deegan, and,
Okay.
okay,
I have
thank
one
you.
other question too. Is this in line with the contract that Cameron University has so that we don't have any conflict at the stadium?
That's an ongoing process we're looking into, to try to determine whether that our contract works with their contract, so that's something we're working through.
Do you know which beverage contract they have?
That Cameron goes through, they go through Coke.
They have one with Coca-Cola
Yes.
as well? Okay.
Yeah, that was one reason we went with Coke originally.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I guess I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Reluctantly. Call roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay.
They're going to executive session.
Under item 9, we have a proposed executive session.
Move for executive session.
Call roll, please.
I'm happy just to be quiet over here.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
thank you all. You're waiting for somebody to give you the nod, weren't you?
Whoa.
Now I make a motion we return from executive session.
Now I will second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Statement of executive session minute for September 4th, 2018. The Board of Education went into executive session at 7:10 p.m. Members present included Kent Jester, President, Carla Clodfelter, Vice President, Patty Nyworth, Kelly Edwards, Dr. Lori Bridges. Others present included Tom Deegan, Superintendent. Items discussed included the employing, promoting, or receiving resignations of individual certified and support salaried personnel as listed on the certified and support personnel reports, the selection of elementary assistant, principal, and training, formative evaluation of Superintendent Deegan, discussion of board's big rocks and departmental goals. During the executive session, the board discussed these items and no other items, and no action was taken. The board returned to open session at 7:35 p.m. This constitutes the minutes of the executive session. Okay, Superintendent's personnel report.
Under item 13, Superintendent's Personnel Report, I have item 13A, which is approval of certified and support personnel reports.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Under item 13B, we have the approval of selection of elementary assistant principal in training, and for this, I recommend Ms. Shelby Carpenter.
Make a motion we approve.
Second?
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
And under item 13, I don't anticipate any action.
Okay.
That concludes my report.
Item 14, new business. Anybody have any new business? Okay. Item 15, next regular board meeting date is Thursday, September 20th, 2018, 5 p.m., Shoemaker Center Auditorium. Do we need to set any new board meeting dates?
Under item 16A, we have a board meeting date, and I'll have another date after that, once you act on 16A. Oh, do we need to, act on 16A? I know, but I was waiting, do we need to vote on 16A? Oh, okay,
It's already been set.
We'll have to vote on scheduling a special meeting.
okay.
That 4:30 meeting next time.
All right, well, the other one is, we need to have a special meeting at 4:30 on September 20th, which is OSSBA new board training program.
That we were supposed to do tonight.
Yeah, we're supposed to do them tonight, so.
But I wouldn't have been able to be here for, so.
I think everybody got, well, we could ask the question, do you all feel comfortable with it? But you have not had a chance, so.
I thought it worked out really well. I might not know all
Are
the
we talking about the
little,
new software?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I might not know all the little shortcuts, but I've got it pretty well.
Yeah, the more you play with it, it's not bad. You can always manage it.
But if you don't tell us otherwise, we're gonna have her here at 4:30 for anybody who has any questions.
I don't think it's necessary.
You don't think it's necessary? For a
I
special-
use it at OSSBA.
I'm probably the
board,
slowest
so
one, and I think I got it. I'm serious.
Technology challenged.
Hey, I just like it to be right there.
So no special?
Special meeting,
Yeah, tell them she doesn't have to come.
all right.
And did y'all notice that it was my idea that we look at that new sign, and then all of a sudden it's on this agenda? and
Yeah, we
somebody-
got the new sign
got the
for
new-
the school phone. She's so excited.
I brought that up 2 months ago.
Okay, are any board announcements? Somebody else needs to get on this item 18 then.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.